Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss the new stories we share. Let's begin. The October wind cut through my suit jacket as I stepped out the back entrance of my office building in downtown Atlanta. I was taking the shortcut to the parking garage, the one I used when I needed to avoid people. It was past 9 at night, and I wanted nothing more than to disappear into the silence of my car. That's when I heard it, a small sound. Almost like a kitten, but softer, human. I stopped walking. The alley behind Thornton Hayes Financial was narrow, lined with dumpsters the cleaning crews used. The streetlight above flickered, casting shadows like ghosts across the concrete. The sound came again, a whimper. I moved toward the trash cans near the wall. My heart began pounding in a way it hadn't in years. Behind the green metal containers, tucked into a space barely big enough for a suitcase, I saw something that made my breath catch in my throat. A little girl. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Her brown hair was matted, her dress thin and dirty. She was curled into herself, arms wrapped around her knees, shaking from the cold. "Hey," I said softly, crouching down. "Hey, sweetheart, are you okay?" She looked up at me with the largest brown eyes I'd ever seen. There was no fear in them, only exhaustion, only surrender. My chest tightened. I thought of my own daughter, the one I'd lost to a custody battle 6 years ago, the one who stopped calling me Dad. "What's your name?" I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she unfolded slightly, and that's when I noticed the piece of paper pinned to the front of her dress. A white envelope, safety pinned through the fabric right over her heart. My hands trembled as I unpinned it. The envelope was sealed. On the front, written in shaky handwriting, were 2 words, "Read me." I looked at the girl again. She was watching me with an expression far too old for her small face, like she understood things no child should ever understand. "Did someone leave you here?" I whispered. She nodded slowly. "Who?" "Grandma," she said. Her voice was small and rough, like she hadn't used it in a long time. "She said you would help me." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. She said you would help. This child had been left for me specifically. Someone had known I would walk through this alley tonight. Someone had planned this moment very carefully. I looked at the envelope in my hand. Part of me wanted to call the police immediately. That was the logical thing. That was what a responsible CEO would do. But another part of me, the part that remembered what it felt like to be small and alone and afraid, couldn't move, couldn't dial, couldn't look away from this child who'd been discarded like garbage behind my own building. I made a decision in that moment, one that would change everything. "Come with me," I said, extending my hand. "Let's get you somewhere warm." She hesitated for only a second, then her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, cold as ice, gripping with a desperation that broke something deep inside me. I didn't know it yet, but this child was about to unravel everything I believed. I brought her to my office on the 12th floor. The building was empty except for the security guard at the front desk, and I told him I was handling a personal matter. He didn't ask questions. That was one of the perks of being CEO. The girl sat on my leather couch, wrapped in my suit jacket. I'd given her water and a granola bar from my desk drawer, and she ate it like she hadn't had food in days. Maybe she hadn't. "What's your name, sweetheart?" I asked gently, sitting across from her. "Lily," she whispered. "That's a beautiful name." I paused. "Lily, do you know where your grandma is right now?" Her eyes dropped to the floor. "She's sick, real sick. She said she had to go to the hospital and she wasn't coming back." My throat constricted. Someone had left this child behind because they were dying. They had chosen me to find her. But why? The envelope sat on my desk. I stared at it for a long moment, then finally picked it up and tore it open. Inside was a handwritten letter, 3 pages, front and back. The writing was shaky but deliberate. Every word had been written with painful intention. I began to read. "Mr. Hayes, if you're reading this, then I am gone. My name is Ruth Patterson, grandmother of Lily Marie Patterson. Her mother was my daughter, Sarah. Sarah died 3 years ago in the fire at the Hartwell manufacturing plant in Douglasville. Maybe you remember that fire. 18 workers died that night. My daughter was one of them." I stopped reading. My hands went cold. I remembered the Hartwell fire. Of course I did. Our company had owned that facility, one of our early investments when David and I were building the business. The fire had been ruled an accident. Faulty wiring, investigators said. A tragedy, but nobody's fault. We'd paid settlements to the families. We'd expressed condolences. We'd moved on. I looked at Lily on my couch. Her mother had died in that fire. Her mother had died in a building I owned. I forced myself to continue reading. "It wasn't faulty wiring, Mr. Hayes. It was your partner. David Thornton knew the building was unsafe. He knew the wiring needed replacing. He had an inspection report warning that workers would die if nothing was done, and he buried it. He buried that report and let people burn because repairs would have cost money. I have proof. The original inspection report that David tried to destroy. My daughter's boyfriend worked in maintenance. He found a copy hidden in old files before he died last year. He gave it to me. Now I'm giving it to you." My hands were shaking so violently the paper rattled in my grip. David Thornton, my partner, my best friend of 20 years. Ruth Patterson was accusing him of murder, and somewhere in this letter she claimed to have the proof that would destroy him. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my home office in Buckhead reading Ruth's letter over and over until the words burned themselves permanently into my brain. The letter included everything: dates, names, account numbers, details about David's conversations with the maintenance supervisor, a man named William Ford who had begged him to shut down the plant for repairs. Details about threats David made to fire anyone who went public. Details about how the damning inspection report had mysteriously vanished from official files. Ruth had included a copy of that report with the letter. The original was with a lawyer in Macon, she said, with instructions to release it to the press if anything happened to her or to Lily. I stared at the document for hours. It was real. I could tell by the letterhead, the official signatures, the specific technical language used. This was a genuine safety inspection from 2 months before the fire, clearly stating that the electrical systems in Building C were a catastrophic failure waiting to happen. David had seen this report. He had signed off on it, and then he had done absolutely nothing. 18 people had died. 18 families had been shattered forever, and my partner had covered it up. I thought about the years I'd spent building this company alongside David, the late nights working, the celebrations after big deals closed, the handshake agreements and whiskey toasts. I thought about how I'd trusted him with my money, my reputation, my entire future. I'd been a complete fool, but I couldn't just take Ruth's word for it. I needed to see the truth with my own eyes. I needed to look David in the face and know if the man I thought I knew was capable of letting people burn to death for profit. Lily was asleep in my guest room. A doctor friend confirmed what I suspected. She was malnourished, exhausted, deeply traumatized, but she was alive, safe for now. The next morning, I went to the office early and accessed our archived server, searching for anything related to the Hartwell plant. Most files were routine: purchase orders, payroll records, insurance documents. Then I found something buried in a subfolder marked Resolved Issues, an email chain. David Thornton to William Ford. I will not authorize a shutdown. The quarterly numbers matter more than your paranoid speculation. If you mention this to anyone, you're fired immediately. End of discussion. The email was dated 6 weeks before the fire. I read it again and again and again. David had known. He had known people would die, and he had chosen money over lives. For 20 years, I'd sat across from this man in boardrooms and restaurants. I'd considered him family. I'd trusted him with everything. I closed my laptop and stared at the Atlanta skyline. The man I'd built my empire with was a monster, and I was going to destroy him. I found David in the executive conference room that afternoon. He was reviewing a merger proposal, reading, glasses perched on his nose, looking every bit the distinguished businessman he'd pretended to be for 2 decades. "Marcus," he said, glancing up with a warm smile. "You look terrible. Rough night." I closed the door behind me. "We need to talk about Hartwell." His face didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, just for a second, just enough. "Hartwell, that was years ago. Why bring it up now?" I walked to the table and placed the letter in front of him, then the inspection report, then the email chain. "Because someone left me a gift last night, a little girl named Lily Patterson. Her mother died in that fire, David. Her grandmother left her for me to find, along with all of this." He stared at the documents. His jaw tightened, his hands curled into fists on the polished table. "This is ridiculous," he said. "These are obviously forgeries. Someone is trying to—" "Don't." My voice came out harder than I expected. "Don't lie to me, not after everything we've been through. I pulled those emails from our own servers, David. You knew that building was going to kill people. You knew, and you let it happen anyway." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then slowly, his mask began to crack. "You don't understand," he said quietly. "We were struggling back then. The company was hemorrhaging money. If I'd shut down that plant, we would have gone under. Everything we built together would have collapsed. So you let 18 people burn to death?" His eyes met mine, and I saw something I'd never seen before: desperation, guilt, and underneath it all, a hollow kind of justification that made my stomach turn. It was supposed to be safe for another year. The inspector said it was 50-50. I thought we had more time. You gambled with their lives. I made a business decision. I felt something break inside me, something that had held together my belief in this man, this partnership, this friendship. 18 people, David, mothers, fathers, someone's daughter, and you sat in this office and signed settlement checks while their blood was on your hands. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping the floor. "What are you going to do? Turn me in? You'll destroy yourself too. Your name is on that building. Your signature is on those insurance documents." "I didn't know," I said. "That's the difference between us. I would have shut it down. Would you?" He leaned forward menacingly. Or would you have looked at those numbers just like I did and made the exact same choice? The question hung between us. For a terrible moment, I wasn't sure of my answer. I'm going to the district attorney, I said finally. Tomorrow morning. David's face went pale. 3 days later, I walked into the district attorney's office in Atlanta with a box of documents and a little girl holding my hand. The investigation took months. Depositions, subpoenas, court appearances, lawyers beyond counting. David fought every step, hiring Georgia's most expensive defense team, trying to bury the evidence under procedural motions and legal technicalities. But truth has a way of surfacing. The inspection report was authenticated, the emails verified. William Ford's widow came forward with evidence her husband had hidden before he died. One by one, the pieces fell into place. David Thornton was convicted of 18 counts of involuntary manslaughter and criminal negligence, 40 years in federal prison. I watched them lead him away in handcuffs and felt nothing but cold, hollow grief for the man I thought I knew. The company survived. Barely. We paid millions in additional settlements to Hartwell families. I stepped down as CEO not because I was guilty, but because I couldn't sit in that chair anymore, not after everything. But the part of this story that matters most isn't about David or the trial or the money. It's about Lily. Ruth Patterson died 2 days after leaving Lily in that alley. She'd planned everything perfectly, knowing she didn't have long. She trusted me to find the truth and protect her granddaughter when she couldn't. I applied for emergency custody that first week. The courts were skeptical. A billionaire CEO wanting to adopt an orphan girl with a traumatic past. It didn't fit expectations, but Lily wanted to stay. She told the judge herself in her small, quiet voice. He saved me. He's the first person who didn't walk past. The adoption was finalized on a warm Tuesday morning in May. I stood in that courtroom with Lily's hand in mine and cried for the first time in 15 years. She's 10 now, loves horses, hates math, has my stubborn streak even though we don't share blood. She still has nightmares sometimes, and on those nights I sit beside her bed and tell her stories until she falls back asleep. I never expected to become a father again. I'd given up on that part of my life after losing my first daughter to distance and regret. But sometimes, the people who save us aren't who we expect. Sometimes, a child abandoned behind trash cans teaches a powerful man what strength really means. Ruth Patterson's final letter ended with words I'll never forget. Mr. Hayes, I don't know if you're a good man, but I believe you want to be. Please prove me right. I hope I did. Every morning when Lily wakes up in a warm bed in a safe home with someone who loves her completely, I imagine Ruth Patterson watching over us, and I hope she's finally at peace. For Lily, for the 18 souls lost, and maybe, finally, for myself too. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories that remind us what it truly means to be human.